I am so excited to introduce you to a longtime friend. So, let me start the recording. I want to make sure that we're all good and that we are on. Yep, we are. Okay, so I'm going to start the recording because we're going to hit the ground running here. So I don't know if most of you know this, but I didn't put it in my blog. But I have known Michael Tricoli, our guest today, since before he was born. His mom and I go back to our college days, and I won't talk about her because I just can't. She'll kill me. Anyway, I just want you to know that the next generation of the people we love are making a difference in this world. And so I'm so excited that today we're going to talk about criminal law, personal injury law, and why we should have a will or create something for our future, just in case something happens to us. So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. Michael, this is where we dance. Okay, here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, this is like a dream come true. I am so excited to be able to introduce you to Michael Tricoli. And the reason why I brought him into the classroom today is because everybody needs a good friend to turn to. And for that, you have me, right? You have the classroom, we're learning and we're growing together. But just recently, I needed legal help. And who else to call a friend, an attorney who knows what they're doing? And what a great combination to be able to present to you a friend, someone that I've known for a long time, and to be able to trust and say, okay, we may not need legal help now, but we might need someone that we need to turn to if we have legal issues. And so we're going to be talking about some of Michael's credentials and where he can help you, not only as a friend, but as your attorney. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Michael Tricoli is here to do just that. Welcome, Michael, to the classroom.
Good afternoon.
I am excited that you're here today.
Yes, well, thank you very much for having me.
Well, I'll tell you what, Michael, I know that, I don't want people to think, oh, because you know Lillian or whatever, that you're here. No, I am so impressed with you. So share a little bit about your background and what led you into law.
Well, sure. So I attended a small school up in Iowa called Grinnell College, where I played football, and I played every offensive down for all 4 years. And then after that, I started working for the family business, which was detailing cars, and saw some legal issues occurring. So because of that, I wanted to join the conversation. So I decided to go to law school, and I ended up graduating from the University of Florida Levin College of Law. And then from there, I went on to the state attorney's office in Jacksonville, where I practiced until 2017. And then I was an in-house counsel for ambulatory surgery centers in both Florida and New Jersey. Just this past year, I decided to open up my own practice which is Tricoli Law PLLC, and that is based in Longwood, Florida.
Wonderful. Wow. That was that was quick. That was quick. We were talking before. It's like, okay, how deep do I go? You know what? It's so good that you have so much experience in such a short period of time of your life. And, most people, if they want to join in the conversation, they watch YouTube or they brush up on a book or something. You went to law school. So there is a conviction, I know that there was a family business, but to be able to go to law school just to be joining the conversation, no, you have more passion than that. What have you discovered about yourself as you've encountered people that needed your help?
Yes. Well, one of my goals in life is to help people, and I'm a goal-driven person. So when I refer to this joining the conversation, that's always the phrase I've always thrown out there. Really joining a legal conversation, it's almost like speaking a different language. And so I just really wanted to understand the concepts of law and also the process of law. And, I have a coffee mug that says, I appreciate that your Google search or something along the lines of your Google search doesn't stand in the way of my law degree. I mean, you can search for these things, but certain words you might see in Google searches carry much more weight than just a single word. One of these words is like a causation. We see causes, causation. But there is a whole semester spent on the term causation in law school. So there's a lot of terms that you just don't know until you know. And once you know, that's when you're able to join that conversation.
Absolutely. And I want to remind all of you who are watching today and maybe later on that if you type in a Q and you write a question, we'll ask Michael the question or for myself. So what we do is, make sure that, how many times do you get to ask somebody who is credentialed like this to ask a particular question. Now, I know that you are well-versed in personal injury, criminal law, legal, health law. And basically, whenever I've had a question, I can reach out to you. And if you don't know it, you pretty much become an expert pretty quickly. Is that something that you've always been able to do, that you've diversified yourself to the point where you can feel comfortable in having so many specialties?
So the famous answer for all lawyers is, well, it depends. It depends on the subject matter. There are certain subject matters that any lawyer says, well, you probably should talk to a very experienced lawyer. There are parts of the law that are very, very difficult, and the amount of case law and the issues out there are something that a novice lawyer couldn't really see. But for the vast majority subjects in law, I can help. And as I stated, I became a lawyer to help people. And, I'm still young, still trying to build a reputation for my firm. So I always offer free consultations, and I do not charge if it's just a quick call and a quick research, anything like that. So that's just one way that I try to put myself out there and try to meet clients.
Yes. And for those of you who are watching from, different parts of Florida or New Jersey, are they able to contact you, or do you just stick with Florida and New Jersey?
Yes, Florida and New Jersey is where I am licensed to practice law. I'm currently applying for some other states, but I haven't. But all those applications are still pending. But yes, anyone from Florida or New Jersey that has any questions is welcome to call or email me.
Yes, and you can go to tricolilaw.com, and that's where you can find Michael, or the phone number is 321-972-4219. And Robert, if you can write that number down, that way people can call if they don't want to ask the question during the broadcast. They can they at least have that number. And if you are a subscriber, then you have all of Michael Tricoli's information. Okay, so I want to take you back to when you were a prosecutor in Jacksonville. What do you think was your biggest awakening after law school and becoming a prosecutor? What was your biggest awakening?
Well, in law school, we're taught a lot of ideals, especially University of Florida focuses a lot on concepts. The practical application of law is a little bit in the 3L year, but once you get out in the real world, it really hits you. And I went to the prosecutor's office as a very idealist person, and quickly had to kind of change my tone on how to handle things. I really probably can't touch on some of the things that occurred there, but there were certain times where I was not happy with certain things being done, but then other times where I was given ability to decide for myself. And I'm very thankful for the supervisors I had there that directed me.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on criminal law today is that we may not be in trouble, but I was sharing with you, you have a beautiful 2-year-old or almost 2-year-old. Little kids, I was told, little problems, big kids, big problems sometimes. And when a child of ours gets into trouble, it affects the entire family. So what are some of the cases that you can, what falls under criminal law when it comes to you being able to help?
Yes. So now I'm a criminal defense attorney. So really in any way, whether it be a civil traffic citation to any type of misdemeanors, and misdemeanors include driving under the influences or DUIs, or driving while license suspended or revoked, which are commonly called DWLSRs, to simple possessions of marijuana, to even up to domestic battery. Those are under the misdemeanor realm. Then we move to the felony realm. In my time as a prosecutor, I was a misdemeanor prosecutor in Duval and Nassau County for roughly 17 months. And then I spent the rest of my time, so just about, over a year and a half, as a felony prosecutor in Duval County. So I am used to handling all sorts of misdemeanors, as well as third degree, second degree, and first degree felonies.
And what do people need to know? At what point do you need to hire an attorney to represent you?
Yes. So again, it depends. It's always the best to have somebody with knowledge to help guide you through the system. So the moment the arrest occurs, or if it's a circumstance where a warrant is out or an investigation is going on, then you might want to get a lawyer involved. If an investigation is going on, it's likely due to there being some question about the probable cause in the case. So when that happens, officers will seek out the wrongdoing party, the defendants, as they might be called, for some sort of, bring them in to the department office and sit them down for a talk. In those circumstances, it is best to have a criminal defense lawyer involved to help guide you.
What is the difference? I mean, when you have an attorney next to you versus going in on your own, what could that be the difference of, like, no jail time versus a lot of jail time? Or what is it worth to somebody to have an attorney? I know that there are different reasons to have one, but what could that make a difference in? Because I know that with children, especially teenagers, they don't understand the complications into their adulthood. We as parents, or we as the person who needs to defend themselves, we don't know what those ramifications are. Do you sit with somebody and tell them, listen, this is what could happen if this doesn't happen? Is that basically your job at the beginning, or is that your job during the whole entire time?
Well, yes. So it would be during the whole entire time, but just at the beginning. So just if an investigation is going on, so let's say some conflict occurred and maybe some violence or non-violence occurred. Officers came out to the scene. They're trying to dig into what's going on. They have one side of the story. They want to hear the other side of the story. Getting an attorney involved will vastly help you because, so we all hear this term Miranda. You have the right to remain silent and things like that. Well, certain Miranda rights and warnings kick in at different stages. So you don't have to be read Miranda until you're in custody, these custodial interrogations. So if an officer just comes to your house and at any time you can stop the conversation, well, the officer doesn't have to read you Miranda there. So that's something that people should know, because a lot of people will say, well, he didn't read me Miranda rights. He didn't read my Miranda rights, so I don't care about anything that was said. Well, it depends on the circumstances of the interrogation. So all these things, it's always best to have a lawyer guide you and say, well, if the police officer came out to your house, you have the ability to leave. If you're not comfortable talking to the officer, you always have the ability to say, officer, I apologize, but I will no longer speak to you any further. You don't have to be, in conflict with the officer or cause any issues with the officer, but there are ways to go about it and still being polite and just stopping the investigation.
Yeah, and so let's say a person as a young adult gets in trouble. Is there any way that the parent can or the attorney can protect the young teenager into having this follow them for the rest of their life?
Yes. So when we're dealing with juveniles, juvenile criminal law is a little bit different. So in understanding criminal law, you really got to understand punishments. Why do we have punishments? Well, the key for juvenile criminal law is always rehabilitation. That's always the most important part of punishment. So the way juveniles are handled is much different than the way adults are handled, where other forms of punishment might be more of a goal. So with juveniles, yes, juveniles have the same rights as the adults when it comes to different, the constitutional rights that were given under the U.S. and the Florida Constitution. So yes, it's always advisable for parents to reach out to an attorney in order to understand what the issues their children might be facing.
And but are there certain things like we can do? I mean, I've heard of how do you say it? I had texted you. Expungement, yes. Is that something that is important in a situation like that?
Okay, so sealing and expungement law. So I actually I teach a lot of classes for the Seminole County Legal Aid Society in Seminole County for indigent clients about sealing and expungement. So that's a kind of a different part of law. But in Florida, you're allowed to seal a record once. And it's only in certain circumstances where the judge withheld adjudication. So there's no conviction. So I'm throwing out a lot of big words, and if anybody has any questions, please email me.
Yeah.
But so basically, if you're moving forward with the case and you accept a plea deal or the case goes to trial and the jury finds you guilty, the judge has the option of convicting you, which is adjudicating you guilty, or has the option of giving you a withhold of adjudication. If you receive a withhold of adjudication, it's your first one, and the crime is not one of the statutory offenses, which is under Florida law, then the defendant is able to seal the record. Now, sealing the record is a process that the person would have to apply through FDLE, which I believe right now is about a 7 or 8 month backup. Wow. And then once they apply through FDLE and get the approval from FDLE, then at that point, they can either do it themselves or hire an attorney to file with the court to file for a seal. Now, once the case is sealed, that means most civil databases and other databases can't access the arrest. And then after the case, if the court approves the seal, 10 years later, you can move for an expungement, which is basically a full throw out. And of course, there are some exceptions, but that's a full throw out of the record.
Yes, absolutely. And we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And if anybody that is watching or listening maybe has a record and it's keeping them from reaching the life that they want, maybe that's holding them back. Is there anything they can do after the fact? Let's say that the parent didn't know to do that, or somebody has a record. I know somebody that had a record and was afraid that they couldn't go to law school. But they went to law school and they were able to overcome that. And so what would your advice be for someone who does have a record and it's keeping them from living the life that they want to live? Is there anything they can do?
Yeah, so this is something that often comes up in the class, because the first question about sealings is, well, can I even apply? It's all on a case-by-case basis, and if any of the individuals out there who have questions like this, if they want to contact me, please go ahead and I'll help you with a background search to see if you can even apply. Now, one of the main questions that happens on job applications is the question itself that you're worried about. So does the question say, have you been convicted of a crime, or does it say, have you been arrested of a crime? Mm-hmm. There are certain laws out there that protect people. The question cannot be too broad to the point that it's going to rule out a large segment of society. So if the question is, have you been arrested of a crime, there has to be a specific reason for that. And different jobs have different reasons why they can ask that. The question for most jobs really should be, have you been convicted of a crime? And as it turns out, a lot of people haven't been convicted, or they haven't been convicted in so many years to where they can actually put no for that. If they were just arrested and the case was dropped, well, there's no conviction. You can put no. Or if the judge withheld adjudication, you can always put no for that because you have no conviction. So it's all on a case-by-case basis. And again, that is something that at all the classes I always teach at, I always enjoy meeting with everybody one-on-one afterwards in order to go through their background to figure out whether or not they can apply. And if they can't, what are their options and how can we answer these questions in the future?
That's very nice of you to do that, because that requires a lot of time. And so for those of you who are going to watch this later on, if this applies to you, the phone number you can call is 321-972-4219. And if you are a resident of Florida or New Jersey, well, Michael can even help you. But if they're not from Florida or New Jersey, Michael, and they still have a question, is that simple enough, or is every state different?
Yes, so every state's different. So we're getting into 10th Amendment issues where the state has the ability to decide different criminal laws, except for federal laws, but that's kind of all statutory. And a lot of the time, we're not really dealing with federal laws. We're dealing with state laws when it comes to criminal laws. So yes, it's state by state, and all states have different laws when it comes to sealing.
Okay. Well, not everybody needs a criminal attorney. But if you do, at least now you know a little bit about the criminal law, why you would call a criminal attorney. But, there's a lot of people who have DUIs, they like a fix-it ticket. Would you need to get involved with a fix-it ticket that wasn't paid, or a parking ticket that wasn't paid?
Okay, so I actually used to intern with a ticket clinic back in my 1L year in law school. And that is always something that everybody can do on their own. At any time, a person can go in for one of these, quote, cattle call days for speeding tickets, and they can always ask the judge to withhold adjudication, something like that. I mean, for the most part, a lot of these ticket clinics are just going in, they're representing 50 people at a time, and they're requesting withholds of adjudication, or they're continuing the case, setting it for trial, and just kind of hoping that the officer doesn't show up in order to get a drop for the case. So that's always something people can take care of. But with that said, lawyers that specialize in speeding ticket defense, they handle a lot of cases and they have a lot of experience with it. And often they charge very reasonable rates. So if you believe that's something you want to do, then definitely look up Ticket Clinic, and there's other law firms out there. And it's always worth your time to either go into a court or hire an attorney to request a withhold of adjudication. Because if you're convicted and if there's an adjudication of that speeding ticket, then that is something that that all the insurance companies can see, and they might end up raising your rates or something like that. So it's always worth your time to look into it.
Now, you called it a ticket clinic? What did you call it?
Oh,
Is it? It's you said it's like a cattle call. Now I'm so people can go to a clinic, go to an attorney that has a bunch of people that they can help. How does that work?
Okay, so when I refer to Ticket Clinic, that's just the name for a law firm that specializes in speeding tickets.
Oh,
When I
okay.
refer to cattle calls, when courts have traffic court, as they call it, it's often cattle calls because there's about 250 people there. It depends on the county. If it's a smaller county, there's going to be smaller, a lower amount of people. But if it's Orange County, Brevard County, Seminole County, traffic court days are often, lawyers refer to them as cattle call days because there's just so many people to call. So the 200 plus people on the docket.
Yeah. So I wasn't in a situation. I know of a situation that the child got a fix-it ticket. They forgot about the fix-it ticket. They got pulled over, and apparently their license had been suspended, and they let them go. And then they got pulled over again, and then they didn't. They ended up with a huge fine. So in a situation like that, do you recommend an attorney, or do you recommend they do it by themselves?
Yes. So in a situation like that, I would recommend an attorney, because with DWLSRs, and when I say DWLSR, that's driving while license suspended or revoked. So there's a traffic citation involved for unknowing DWLSR.
Mhm.
Now, the DMV is going to send out letters to the address of your driver's license notifying you that your license is suspended. Now, it's always assumed that people read their mail and they would know that. But officers do have the option of charging unknowing driving while license suspended or revoked, which is just a traffic citation. But knowingly driving while license suspended or revoked, that becomes a second-degree misdemeanor. And if you get a prior conviction for that, it becomes a first-degree misdemeanor. And if you have multiple convictions for that, it becomes a third-degree felony. So these can go up as far as punishment is concerned. So yes, if you are stopped for knowing driving while license suspended or revoked, that is the type of case that you want to hire an attorney for. Now, Florida, when I was a prosecutor, 30% of all criminal cases in Florida were DWLSR. So they flood the dockets of criminal courts. So often judges have reasons to let these plea out for lesser amounts, or, the main part is just to get people to get a valid license. That's always the goal.
Wow. Wow. We just need to become aware and just do it. Just pay the thing, or figure out what kind of help. Is it really expensive to hire a criminal law attorney?
Yes, it's much more expensive to hire a criminal law attorney as opposed to a traffic citation attorney. So yes, it's usually significantly more.
Yeah. Okay, so before we shift gears, because not everybody needs a criminal attorney or a criminal law attorney, I want to shift gears here, because if you want Michael's information, you probably already have it if you are a subscriber of the Lillian McDermott Radio Show Classroom. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and so that you will be able to know who is in the classroom, and you also receive the podcast or the video when you do subscribe every day that we have a class. And so you also get my 90-day challenge to self-love ebook for free while you're there. So also check out my social media. We are being garbled up because our classroom is being censored quite a bit, as you can imagine, some of the topics that I have. So I need for all of you to share and like and follow and text. I don't know if I said that, text, but go to all my social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, BitChute, and my website, of course, and follow. Then go check out my sponsors, because without my sponsors, there would be no classroom, and then you wouldn't have all this free information. So please check out my sponsors, like Keep Me Safe Organics, beauty products with no chemicals, all organic, First Alternative Care, telemedicine, that's 24/7, non-urgent, dermatology, family practice for your entire household, and 3 hours a year behavioral health counseling for your entire household for $19.99, because you are a member of the Lillian McDermott Radio Show Classroom. So $19.99 for your entire household, and get unlimited, like having a doctor following you all the time. The pharmacy in Merritt Island, we love the pharmacy. They've supported the classroom for a long time. Geyer Wellness Group, making you as beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside. We also have Right Way Health and Wellness in Georgia. They love the classroom, and she is a strong supporter, Dr. Jennifer Grameth. And we also have the affiliate programs like Ground Therapy, Brain Tap, Avasia, all these things that make us feel better naturally. So check out my sponsors and support them the way they're supporting the classroom. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. You can help by donating $1 a month or $1,000 a month, whatever you can afford. Time, talent, or treasure will be greatly appreciated. So today we're talking with Michael Tricoli of Tricoli Law, and you can find him in Sanford, Florida, or that's where it is, right? Sanford. I think I saw your address as Longwood. I'm sorry, Longwood, in Longwood, Florida. For some reason, I get Longwood and Sanford confused. I have no idea why. It's been, I think I've lived away from Orlando too long. That's what it is. Okay. Or you can get a hold of Michael at michael@tricolilaw.com. Again, if you're a subscriber, you have his links to everything. And his phone number is 321-972-4219. So Michael, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a lot of people to see and you have a thriving practice. And but I really do appreciate this information, because sometimes when we are caught off guard, it's really hard to make a decision for yourself. But sometimes we need to make a plan. And when I'm going now towards, a will or things that will help us or our partners or our children make better decisions for us. So when it comes to that, how do you help people with making decisions for their future?
Yes, and this is a topic that has kind of risen to the top with everything going on in the world today. But yes, so I do help with simple wills, setting up durable power of attorneys, setting up healthcare surrogate designation forms, as well as living wills. Now, these 4 documents are really the 4 documents of elder care law. So as everybody, as we get older, we need to think about what position are we leaving our loved ones in if the worst were to happen. And these 4 documents will help guide our loved ones in dealing with everything after we pass away.
Okay, so let's talk through the most important aspect. Let's talk about all these 4 and why they are important and what they symbolize for yourself and for the people who are your loved ones. So let's start with what, a living will. Would that be the first thing we do, or a will?
Well, yes. A will is the most important document with a state. And there's a lot of different forms of, one thing people always say is, how can I avoid probate court? I mean, probate court, you're relying upon courts. It usually takes months, if not years, to get through. So a lot of people, they become anti-probate. They want to move everything out of their probate estate. And these are all steps you can take. Tricoli Law does not specialize in any trusts, but there are a lot of law firms in every state that do specialize in trusts. And trusts are a creature of statute. So a lot of people seek out these attorneys to create trust for them to ensure that their loved ones will have money without having to go through a probate estate. Now, a lot of items, a lot of possessions aren't in the probate estate anyway. So oftentimes when people call, the first thing we have to do is evaluate all the assets they have and then figure out what's a probate asset and what's a non-probate asset. Mm-hmm. Now, for all probate assets, these would be anything without listed beneficiaries. A person would have a will in order to, after they pass, the will would be admitted to probate, and then the probate estate is administered per Florida law.
Okay. So at what point should you get a will? I mean, there are people that say, well, I don't have anything, but they do. Everybody has something. So everybody have a will, and do they need an attorney to do a will?
Yes, so everybody should have a will. It's always advisable to have a will. If you do not have a will, then your estate falls back on the law of intestacy, which is basically, dying without a will. So then everything will be just passed according to statute, to your spouse or to your children or to your descendants. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question there?
No. I just wanted to know, if somebody doesn't have anything to leave, should they have still a will? Because there's still things that they might have that they would want to. I mean, is there a certain requirement to create a will? I guess that's the question I'm trying to ask you. Is there a requirement?
Yeah, so this is actually a question I get a good amount. So people say, well, I don't have anything. Do I have to get a will? Well, technically, no. If you don't have anything, or if you don't have a will, it just falls back to these intestacy statutes. Yes, and I guess the next part of your question is, do I need an attorney in order to have a will?
Yeah.
For that, it's always advisable to have an attorney. There's certain requirements for a will. So Florida does not allow what's called holographic wills. And holographic wills are wills that do not follow the requirements, the statutory requirements of a will. So it's always important to have an attorney involved just to guide you, just to make sure you have a valid will, because just handwriting on a piece of paper, I want my 2 teacups to go to X, well, that doesn't have it, that's not valid in Florida. So an attorney will guide you and make sure that the written document is proper and it's valid.
I've seen too many families destroyed because there wasn't a will, or there was a will and it was written incorrectly, and now it's contested. Or can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So it does happen. And one of my favorite comics of all time is an older male sitting by his fireplace talking to his lawyer, and he tells his lawyer, "Now read me the part again where I disinherit my family." It is allowed. People can draft wills up that say, it's always advisable to put each member of the family in the will, but you could always say this person gets $1, this person gets nothing. So you're always able to disinherit families in the wills. But yes, it is very important to make sure that the will is written, that there's 2 witnesses, and it's always best to have an affidavit signed by the witnesses and a notary to make sure that there's no questions of the validity of the will. Now, often if there's a will in place that people aren't happy with, they have a statutory amount of time to basically say, well, this will was coerced, or the testator wasn't, their mind wasn't sound at the time. There's ways to question these wills, but if you work with an attorney, they'll do their best to make sure that the will is going to be valid and that all these questions about the will are easily disregarded in the estate, in the administration of the estate.
Okay. So you said that there were 4 forms. So the first one was will. That was the most important. What would be the next one that would be important?
So another document that's very important and a very powerful document is called a durable power of attorney. Now, you can do a power of attorney or a durable power of attorney. The main difference is a durable power of attorney will stay in place even if the person is unconscious or in any sort of state where they can't make decisions on their own. But so a durable power of attorney can be both financial and it can be health-wise. But basically, the person is giving power of attorney to another person. So the power to make decisions for that person. Now, as we get older, it's always best to have something like this in place just in case a person's not able to go to the bank or not able to call to make decisions about anything. This durable power of attorney is a very powerful document, and it will give another person the ability to make those decisions.
Very good. Very good. Okay. What would be the next one? The next document?
So probably the next one is a living will. Now, a lot of times I get calls, can you draft a living will for me? And people think a living will is a will or it's some sort of inter vivos trust or something like that. Now, a living will, the famous case for this is the Terry Schiavo case. This is a person's wishes upon end of life experiences. So if somebody is in a vegetative state, no longer to make any decisions, different facilities have different percentages of say, oh, if the person has less than 5% chance of, being able to make decisions on their own, if we continue them on a feeding tube, in those circumstances, the living will kick in and it will let your loved ones know your desires for those end of life circumstances. So a lot of times people will come in and they don't wish to hold up anything. They just want to go peacefully, and they can put that in a living will. And that's something that everybody will have to abide by. So that's always, that kind of protects your loved ones from making that hard decision, the pulling the plug decision. So that takes it out of their hands. And that's something that I know I've had family members in that circumstance, and it often is a very traumatic and emotional decision to make.
So let's dive a little deeper, because I want people to understand that if they don't have this, I have a living will. I think I do. I better do, because, those are, I don't want my children or my husband to make these kinds of decisions. And I've had multiple conversations with Robert about what my wishes are, but that does not hold anywhere. It does not hold water if I don't have it written out. How much anguish, you're saying you've seen it where there wasn't a living will, and the anguish of having to make the decision of pulling the plug versus having the decision made, but still executing it is going to be difficult to do, but at least you're not initiating it. Is there any way that you can share how much it's worth to have this done versus not having it done? I'm talking about the emotional aspect, the psychological damage versus the cost of getting this done.
Well, sure. I mean, nobody wants to feel like they caused anybody's death. And I think in the back of everybody's mind, we're always thinking, well, there might be a chance. But having this document, it really puts the person who's on the bed that you're having to make a decision for, it's their desires, their wishes. So, for loved ones to know that, and the loved ones don't have to have the guilt of making whether or not they made the right or wrong decision. So a document like that is really invaluable, especially if you want to care for the emotional state of your loved ones.
And the financial cost of that is, let's look, is this something that is costly to do, or is this something that anybody can do at any moment and it's affordable?
Sure. Yes, so it should be affordable. I offer, basically flat rates for these sort of documents. Some people think it's too high. Some people think it's just about right. It's kind of all over the place. As far as this document goes, there are templates available on the internet. Again, I would recommend having an attorney involved just to make sure that it's valid, because like a will, there are certain statutory requirements for a living will to be a valid document. So it's always worth your time, even to just create it on your own, but then contact an attorney and say, hey, just want to make sure you review this. Maybe I can come in and sign it with you, and you can have some other witnesses there, maybe a notary there, just to make sure everything's good. So all that's always in people's best interest.
Very good. Very good. So what I'm trying to do is that the anguish is not worth, is worth the money, that the cost in spending to get the living will done is worth every penny compared to the anguish that if it's not done. So please look and see, make sure that you have a living will as well. Okay. So what's the fourth document, Michael?
All right, so the fourth document is a healthcare surrogate designation form. So this form kind of runs into a durable power of attorney, also kind of runs into a living will. This form is important because some hospitals don't want to look at durable power of attorneys because it has all the financial information. So they just think, oh, that's a financial document, and a living will only kicks in when you're under the certain circumstances. So then we got this healthcare surrogate designation form that will basically say that this person or this person will be making healthcare decisions for me. If I'm not in a state to say anything. So let's say you're in a state where you're not vegetative, you're just kind of unconscious at the time, and the doctors need to make a quick decision. Having this healthcare surrogate designation form will give them the person to contact in order to make that quick decision.
Yeah, it's so, these are things that are so important. And I wish that every young person that's dealing with their parents and you're seeing their life decline writes themselves a note saying, I will never do this. I will create this because I've seen what's happened. I know we had with my parents a decision that was made for my mom created a lot of a health crisis for my mom, and so guardianship needed to be done for, we all came together because we needed to have a guardianship. And so it's so the more documents we have stating what our wishes are. And so I'm writing myself a letter to the old Lily saying, make sure these things are done and that you don't cause this kind of pain with your children, because it's the cost to have this done. It's a fraction of the emotional cost to have to deal with all of this. It's just so I hope that you guys listen to what Michael has to say and just know that this is something that you can do. It's something that's affordable. It's something that's doable, and it'll save the anguish. And by the way, talking about anguish, all that past trauma goes into your body and it doesn't it manifests into illness. This is what we talk about. And so I want to remind you that February 5th, 6th, and 7th, I'm doing my New Truth series, I Am the Solution workshop, which helps. It's like continuing education of your soul. So make sure that you sign up for this, because we are releasing past traumas, releasing negative thoughts about ourselves, self-sabotage, victimization. We're releasing weight. We're releasing all the things that are holding us back during that weekend. So check it out at whenyouneedafriend.com. And I mean, these are all little things, Michael, that we don't think, we just think, okay, cause, effect. And you had a whole course on causal. But so many times we don't look at something as small as just having a will, or having your desires, a living will, desires written down, how that will cause so much trauma that will just go into the body, it will remain in the body, and it will manifest into disease and behaviors that people just don't know why it's happening. So, listen to Michael, get all these documents done. Now, just recently, I told you I was in a car accident back in 2017, and it was a major impact, caused major impact in my life. So let's talk about automobile accidents. I know there's a lot of PI, personal injury attorneys out there. And, what I love about you, Michael, is that you truly, truly care about the individual. I mean, you've spent so much time with me talking about things that we're not even working on. So let's talk about personal injury and how that can affect a person's life if you don't use an attorney.
Yeah, so anytime a person's involved in any type of car accident or slip and fall, it is always advisable to contact an attorney. Now in Florida, we have, basically Morgan & Morgan and Dan Newland that kind of control the market, and plenty of other great law firms out there. These law firms have a lot of experience in dealing with things, so it is always advisable. The one thing I would throw in there is a lot of my clients always contact Morgan & Morgan, Dan Newland, or any of the other big attorneys first, and something might go wrong, their case is not being paid attention to, or the law firm itself withdraws from the case for a variety of reasons. And then it's always advisable for people to pick up the phone and call other law firms, because if you put 10 lawyers in a room, there's going to be about 18 different opinions. So all lawyers have different opinions about cases. And, I have helped plenty of people that have been dropped by those big law firms, and I've helped them turn around their case. And, we were able to get a settlement, or we're still working on the case right now. So just because one lawyer isn't happy with it doesn't mean all lawyers wouldn't be happy with it. And there's a lot of lawyers out there that want to help. So, my biggest advice is just to make sure when you call into the big firms that you first research on the firm's website the lawyers involved, and you request certain lawyers. So you don't want to be left with a lawyer that never returns phone calls. I mean, when I worked in the prosecutor's office, my supervisor, if he would walk by and see the little red light that shows voicemail on my phone at 6:30 p.m., he would be like, well, when are you calling that person back? So I always had the rule, shoved into my head that I had to return calls before I can leave the office. And that's something that I always do to this day. And so just make sure that you're with a person you're comfortable with. There's going to be a lot of major decisions and a lot of stressful times with depositions or perhaps trials ahead of you. So make sure you get to know the person as well as you can. And, with Tricoli Law, we're very transparent, and I always make myself available. And I often hear from a lot of people, well, I only stuck with you because I got to speak with you immediately. And that's, it's very important to me. I might not always have the answer at that time, but I will find the answer, and I will make myself available to you.
Yeah, that's true. I can testify to that as well. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation. It's been a while since I've had an attorney in the classroom, and it is a part of life. We sometimes find ourselves where we don't know the law, or we don't know what to do. And it's always nice. And what I love about you, Michael, you said a consultation is free, right?
Yes.
For everything?
Yes, yeah, always free for consultations. I think a lot of times I just enjoy speaking to people and hearing about different conflicts and just kind of trying to discuss different, sometimes an attorney isn't needed. Sometimes when I talk to people, I tell them, well, here are the three options you might have. And two of these options, don't include me in it. And this, one of those options is the best option for you. So definitely helping people through issues is why I became a lawyer, and I always enjoy doing it.
Yes. And so again, Michael Tricoli, he is an attorney in Longwood, Florida, but he can also help you in New Jersey and Florida. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to him because he might be able to know a quick answer for you. And that's tricolilaw.com. And if you want to reach Michael directly, it's michael@tricolilaw.com. His number is 321-972-4219. So Michael, we've been talking about law and serious and heavy duty. What's the funnest part of your job? What is the that just makes your heart sing about being an attorney?
Well, yes, it is helping people. So the question you asked got me thinking. My wife asked me two questions the other day, and she said, this is the most important thing for life. And it's one, what do you love to do?
Mm-hmm.
So when are you the most happiest? So
Yes.
one's when are you the most happiest? And two is what do you love to do? And I know for me, whenever I hear love and happiness, I always just think about my son. So anything I can do to get back to spending time with my beautiful wife, my son, and our little dog, Cannoli, and those times are the most important to me. So I'm most happiest with them. And the thing I most enjoy doing is helping people. I love helping people. And sometimes it's not always the best conclusion we arrive to, but often I will hear from people, hey, at least thank you for taking the time to talk to me. So it's always the person. The great quote from all lawyers is it depends, and it's a case-by-case basis. Everybody presents different issues, and it's always very enjoyable to help understand the issue, kind of walk through the possible ways to get through this conflict, the possible resolutions for the issue, and then trying to help the person to the different conclusions. So that's always the best part for me.
Yeah. And so as an attorney also, you can't help or fix everybody, right? So have there been gut-wrenching moments for you that you've gone, oh, I wish I could have helped them, or maybe it was too late for you to help them. Maybe they called you too late. What is your advice for someone that feels it's helpless and they contact you, or they feel it's helpless and you've seen the process of the legal courts? What would be your advice for someone who says it's too late for me?
Yeah, so I wish I had the answer for that. And definitely if it's too late, there's a statute of limitations issue. So there might be a legal malpractice claim there. So that's one box, but just kind of getting past the statute of limitation issues, there are plenty of circumstances, and a lot of them involve medical malpractice claims, because medical malpractice claims include all these pre-suit requirements where you have to get an expert to sign off. So it often happens that people that were wronged by doctors or facilities or given wrong advice, they have no way to go about their claim because an expert has looked at it and the expert just can't sign off. So for all those people, I never have the easy answer for them. And especially my time as a prosecutor, I spent more time as a prosecutor talking to angry victims with me than I did with happy victims. I don't know if there is a happy victim because the criminal justice system really isn't created to help victims. But I would often tell people I didn't become a prosecutor to drop cases, but a lot of times I have to make hard decisions. And if I can't prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, I can't move forward. And there just isn't an easy answer for that. I spent many nights in Jacksonville worried for different situations, and all I can do was make myself available. And some people would come in, scream at me, and threaten to file bar complaints against me, and other people were a little more respectful and understood the weight of the issue that was hanging on my shoulders. It's all case by case, and some, like you said, you can't fix every problem.
Yeah, that's right. But at least they can call you to see if there's any hope. Because I always say that it's never hopeless. I mean, we can always try to do something, because the worst thing is to feel like a victim. And then once the case is settled, you still feel like a victim. There's certain things that that we must know, okay, well, we there was nothing we could do, or unfortunately, like, for example, maybe one day we can do a class on, the fact that people don't have enough insurance. They don't carry enough car insurance. They think that they have enough, but when they get into an accident, the other person is uninsured, they realize, oops, we didn't have enough. We have about 2 minutes left. Any words of wisdom for people that are driving around and don't know if they have enough insurance?
Yeah, so it's always advisable to buy underinsured motorist or coverage, underinsured motorist coverage. So that way you don't have to worry if a person hits you and whether or not they have insurance and what types of bodily injury limits the person has. A lot of times these cases really come down to what type of insurance the person has, because Florida is a very debtor-friendly state, so it is hard to sue people personally sometimes in this state. Again, there's certain things we can fix and certain things we can't fix. And sadly, some of the people that have been the worst injured have been in situations where there really is no help. And these are often people that are dropped by the bigger firms and come here, and I just really do whatever I can do. I probably try to contact anybody I can to help me with it. And, we just try to do the best we can for everybody.
Well, Michael, I am very impressed. I was very impressed from the moment I met you for the first time, and I'm still impressed today. Thank you so much for coming on to the classroom and sharing your wisdom. I know it's I know it's difficult sometimes to kind of make sure you have everything, but I really do believe this was a good dip of the toe into Tricoli Law, and I hope that you will feel free to call him whenever you feel you need an attorney. So thank you, Michael, for coming in.
Thank you.
And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Michael Tricoli wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. Here we go.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, Michael, this is the Teacher's Pet Corner. I told you that we're going to have a little bit of time here. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that perhaps, or if you guys have any questions, again, you are welcome to ask a question by typing in a Q and then ask the question. Maybe there was something that you wanted to hear, but we didn't talk about, or you can text me at 407-373-5959 and I'll read your question. But Nicholas said, great office. So that's a good, a good thumbs up from Nicholas. And so is there anything that perhaps maybe you wanted to share that because I didn't ask the right question or then we ran out of time? Is there anything that you would like for people to know?
I couldn't begin to start explaining anything. If anybody has any questions that they have, everybody has different circumstances. Please just email or call and I'll try to do the best I can to explain it. And
the phone number again is 321-972-4219. That's 321-972-4219. And that's Tricoli Law. Michael Tricoli, you are just an amazing young man. And I wish you all the best for your future, because I know that everybody who walks into your office, between you and Kelsey and your assistant, your paralegal, they're going to be well taken care of. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom.
And again, a special thanks to Evelyn, who's the legal assistant here. She does a great job, and always I hear nothing but great things from all of our clients about her. Yeah.
What do you think is your number one thing that makes you different? Because you mentioned Morgan & Morgan and you mentioned Dan Newland, and I know personally I shared with you that I've been in the legal world for a long time, and many people, and I'm not saying anything negative about them, but that I've been told that when you go to these larger firms, you feel like a number. So what is different about Tricoli Law? What would you say is the one thing, if you take one word for Tricoli Law, what would that be?
I would say friendly and family. But I do want to go on a quick side tour here. I'm not saying anything bad about Morgan and Morgan. Dan
Neither do
Newland,
I.
I
Yeah.
wish them the best. John Morgan, when I used to wait at a bus stop, I played baseball with a few of his sons, but
Yeah.
he would drive up to a bus stop. He would pull down his windows and he would look at me and he'd tell me, "I'm not driving away till you smile." So John Morgan is an
They're
amazing
great
person.
people. That's right.
Yeah, and he deserves everything that he's been able to achieve. And actually, my sister worked at Dan Newland right when that office opened, and I know
That's
they're
right.
working around the clock there.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, those big firms where they're spending so much money on marketing, they have to look at cases a certain way. Here, I don't have the millions of dollars a month budgets in marketing, so I can look at cases a bit differently. I can spend the time as I want to spend it per my mind, and all attorneys are different, and sometimes I'll look at cases different than others. And it's always important for people to feel comfortable, and that means also calling me out when I'm wrong. I know I'm not perfect, and I know sometimes I look at a case and I'm bogged down by my training and experience, and I'm not seeing the common sense view of the case. So I often encourage people to explain to me their points of views, because, with every situation, there's dozens of different points of views with everything.
Well, thank you so much. And hey, it starts the conversation. So, and again, personally, I know John Morgan and Dan Newland, and they are wonderful people. I just want to make sure that you know that you're in choice. You have a choice to look and shop around. Don't go to the first person that tells you that they can do bajillion things for you, and then you get to the end of the road and nothing. So just make sure that you shop around, not only for your doctor, which we talk about here all the time, but you also shop around for your attorney. And if you do, then I hope you consider Michael Tricoli, attorney Michael Tricoli at Tricoli Law. And the number again is 321-972-4219. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to say goodbye, Michael. Thank you so much again for everything that you do for the people who can't afford an attorney, as well as for the people who need an attorney and can't afford it. So thank you very much.
And thank you for everything you do. And thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Okay, bye guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, by the way, John Gray tomorrow. John Gray, the author of Venus and Mars books, the book series, is going to be on tomorrow. We're going to talk about victimization, a different kind of victimization. And so people are addicted to being a victim. So we're going to break out of that. So I hope